I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Well, we are going live a lot this week because it is time for the 2024 annual Vegan Health Bundle. There's other bundles, but it's not like this one because this bundle has over $8,000 worth of product if it was purchased separately. New product by I think it's over 125 contributors, your favorite plant-based doctors, chefs, influencers, creators, and we're bringing as many on as we can during this 10 days because at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday, March 10th, the bundle is gone forever, never to appear again. So right now I'm going to introduce you to Rachael Brown. She's the author of For Fork's Sake. That's a mouthful. She's been on the show before, but she's going to talk about a few things, including her peanut butter balls, which are in the bundle. So please welcome her to the show. And if you want to get it from Rachael, I'll have her unique link because each of us has her own link. It'll be her unique link in this chat in the show notes if you want to support Rachael. Here's Rachael. I love your new hairdo.
Thank you. I was just telling, I got it done yesterday and they straighten it for me. It takes me way too long to do that. So.
Because I thought you looked like Julia Roberts before, but I think even now, even more. So you could be like her sister.
Love it.
You could be double. Maybe you should go to Hollywood because they're always looking for celebrity lookalikes, to show parties and stuff.
It would be fantastic.
And then you could tell her about the vegan diet and why it's so
Yes, exactly.
Oh, it'd be so great if more influential celebrities would do it. I mean, there are a few, but not as many as we need,
It's true. And it really just takes a few, right? To spread the word in their own little realm. And then all of a sudden it's not this. I mean, just in the last 14 years, we changed this way of eating 14 years ago. And it is amazing how much more normal it is now. 14 years ago, nobody knew what plant-based, whole food plant-based was, So yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
all the people we can get.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for doing that. So bundle, what did you put in the bundle?
So I actually included my entire book For Fork's Sake. The ebook is in the bundle. Wow. Yeah. So I'm hoping for people who haven't purchased it, now is the perfect time to get it because you get all this other stuff, $8,000 worth of other stuff. So, and my book isn't a cookbook. It has some recipes in it to get you going, but it isn't a cookbook. So this bundle's fantastic because you get all these whole food, plant-based, no oil, which are all compliant, recipes that would go perfectly with if you're new to starting this out or if you're needing some inspiration, all of that. So I also included in the recipe book that we did, the spring themed recipe book, I've got my deviled no eggs. So they're little potatoes that look like deviled eggs and they're fantastic. They're perfect for spring functions, Easter, Mother's Day, that kind of stuff, graduation parties, all of that. And I also included a recipe that it was in Forks Over Knives last spring. It's called plant powered, I think, salad is the one I submitted. So it's really fun to make with kids. You put real flowers in there, edible flowers. And it's a great way to get kids who maybe aren't that excited about eating salad. If there's flowers that they can eat in there, it makes it a lot more doable.
Cool. How old are your kids now?
So they were 6 and 8 when we transitioned to this way of eating. Our son will turn 20 on March 12th, and our daughter is 22. They're both away at college in different states, and they both continue to eat whole food, plant-based, no oil. They cook this way on their own because they really experienced the difference.
And they weren't little babies when you transitioned them. And a lot of people say, well, it's too late. They don't like fruits. They don't like vegetables. So that's very reassuring to hear that they weren't old, but they weren't like newborns either. So it's never too late.
Exactly. And even at that age, Chef AJ, it's really interesting because a few years in, when I was writing the book, I was asking my daughter, like, what foods do you miss from before? And she couldn't really come up with anything that she missed from before. So even though she was 8 years old when we transitioned to this way of eating, it's not like she was, adults, we have so much more past with favorite foods for so many years. I honestly find that it's easier for kids to make this transition than adults most of the time. And people get so worried that their kids won't do this, but kids are really adaptive.
Yeah, well, that's amazing that they kept it up on their own. And were they able to cook for themselves in college?
So the first year in the dorm was a little rough. They ate a lot of the same thing because both their colleges didn't have a lot of options. My son primarily did like rice bowls with broccoli and tofu. And that was pretty much it, with a sweet and sour sauce or something. But he moved into his own house this year, so now he's cooking on his own. Our daughter, she was a COVID 2020 college person, so that was tricky in all kinds of ways. She sent us a picture one time from her university where the picture said vegan for dinner. And when she went to get in line, what it was the vegan glaze on the chicken. The chicken glaze was vegan, and they were calling that vegan food. So she did a lot of in her dorm, she made oats every morning for breakfast, and she would just, stockpile veggies and get some tortillas and make her own wraps and stuff, because her school, even though it has this huge environmental studies program, is not great on the whole food, plant-based vegan options.
Yeah, I mean, hospitals, schools, prisons, places where people could really use better nutrition sometimes seem to have the worst nutrition.
It's so true. And it's really unbelievable. And I understand the way subsidies work, that, maybe it makes sense for them, but for the health of and long term, price wise, yeah, I hope it catches on soon. Like in New York, Mayor Eric Adams transitioning the 9 public hospitals to plant-based. I mean, he's doing fantastic work, right? If you're in one of those hospitals, the first 2 options are vegan options, whole food plant-based options. If you don't like any of those in those first 2 options, you can choose a third, which has meat, but you have to pay for it. I love that.
That's amazing that he was able to do that. I had him on the show before he was the mayor. That is just really cool.
Yeah. And he's also done work with, they have, I can't remember, it's Healthy Mondays or Fridays, but plant-based, all New York City schools, plant-based meals on one of the days of the week too. So they're trying hard, and I really commend him for his work. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Very cool. So, you mentioned the contributor cookbook, and that to me, I mean, that book will never be available. And what we did, guys, is we all submitted a new recipe to this book, and it's beautiful. And it's Alyssa Ramirez created it. And it's just, I think it's like almost 200 pages. And I put a recipe that's nowhere. I put in a new recipe, blueberry cornmeal muffins. So it's not in even any book. So that's a really cool find. What else did you find in the bundle that caught your eye that you might want to either make, watch, or listen to?
Yeah, so much good stuff. I mean, initially, the first things that caught my eye were Dr. McDougall's gut issue.
Me too. That's the one thing I can't, because I'm more of a watcher than a reader. So I'm like, yay, somebody put a video course in.
Yeah, which will be fantastic. So that Melanie Joy's submission looks really interesting too. I love her. I've read her books. She's the one who introduced the idea and coined the term carnism, and her vegan advocacy. I'm just super curious to see what it is, like how to avoid burnout, how to stay at this for the long term. I think it'll be really valuable information, along with so many other, the North Indian recipe book, that looks fantastic because I love Indian food. And that's like a splurge around here, because we have a restaurant that does vegan, it has a vegan menu, but there's so much oil in it. So those recipes look fantastic. And I did actually make a few. I'll show you. Not the Indian recipes, but Well Your World, Dylan Holmes, he has a smoky cheese ball recipe in there. This is fantastic. So I made the recipe and then broke it into a few little balls. So I did one with like slivered almonds that he suggested. This I did herbs. So delicious to take, to a gathering or something. People aren't expecting it's not a typical vegan cheese that has a lot of coconut oil or, a lot of.
That looks amazing too. Over 2,000 recipes. This is the biggest bundle ever. So what are people waiting for,
I know. Fantastic. So, hey, I also you might recognize these.
Oh my God. Those are the Goodman peanut chews.
Yes.
They're beautiful.
They are so good. I had some yesterday for breakfast, I'll have you know.
You made them perfectly. Those look, you did a great job. Guys, that's a recipe from my new book that everybody's wanting, and the book doesn't come out till August. So I actually shot a video and put that. The bundle is worth just that recipe.
It is. And I have to say it's so delicious. I usually melt my chocolate in the microwave, but I'm like, no, I actually watched your video and I was like, I'm going to try this on the stovetop. My chocolate didn't turn out as shiny as yours. So I don't, do I need to stir
no, I don't, I think that I don't think it turns out that shiny when you don't use oil, to be honest, but that's why we put the nuts on top so we don't see it. In the regular world, when, as a pastry chef, when they're melting chocolate, they're always adding a little bit of oil. Also, depending on which chocolate you use, I'm using completely unsweetened. And so that, I don't think that has that glossiness and, that, but anyway, that looks so perfect. And
it's so good.
Well, yeah.
And, I thought like, oh, totally unsweetened, I'm not sure how that'll work. It's so delicious because it's super rich. These are incredible. I mean, you really could, I cut the recipe in half because I knew my husband and I would want to eat them all. So
absolutely.
Yeah, but I'm having a hard time keeping, I was like, no, we can't have any more because I need to share them today.
That's so funny. Well, you know what I do is I cut them smaller. So believe it or not, we have these potlucks here. And so in a regular 9x9 or 8x8 tray, I have gotten up to 64 pieces. I mean, they're small, but they're rich,
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, it's just a perfect sweet. Yeah, it's really delicious. That was an amazing recipe. And I didn't realize Goodman was your maiden name.
Yeah, Goodman. Well, and also I was making a play on words because the candy that it was based on was something I used to enjoy as a vegan in Philadelphia, not healthy, but vegan. It was called Goldenberg Peanut Chews. And I'm like, that was my favorite candy. Can I recreate it? And then it's so funny because I did. And now everything you see on Instagram are people doing kind of things like that where, you've seen those videos where they take the dates and they spread the peanut butter and they do the chocolate. And that you can do that, but I think this is a little bit easier to do that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so delicious, so delicious. The other thing I have is what's in my book, the recipe that these are the happy peanut butter balls. So they're not maybe as beautiful as your dessert.
No, they look amazing though. And they look like, are you coating them in different things? Is that why they look different?
Yeah. So the amazing thing, so I, with the APOE34 gene, my body, if I eat a lot of peanuts, I will gain 5 pounds in 2 weeks. So we do a lot of the PB2 powders. So I don't usually keep peanut butter on hand anymore, but, so I've got the PB2 with cocoa powder. I've got the almond powder. So these are it's just blanched almonds that have been defatted. So technically, if you're going with Dr. Greger's terminology, these are processed foods because something has been taken away from them, but it's all the fat that doesn't work well with my body, raises my cholesterol, that. But you can also use tahini. You can use sunflower seed spread. I've been doing some of that too. So yeah, I use a combination of whatever kind of nut butter. Also great if you have kids with peanut allergies or, you can't handle a certain nut. You could do cashew butter, whatever nut butter you want to do. It's super simple. You mix it up with, and now in my book, originally it calls for honey. This is because when we, transitioned to eating this way, we weren't vegan, we were whole food plant-based, but you can use any sweetener you want. So these days I use date syrup, organic date syrup, which I saw the date lady has a coupon and recipes.
Yes.
I can't wait to use them because I had to go 3 different places to find date syrup this time.
Do you not have a Walmart near you? Because they do sell, okay, so they do sell it at Walmart. Okay.
Yeah. So I went to Trader Joe's first because that's where I used to get it. And they don't carry it anymore. So then I went to a local grocer and finally that was my 3rd stop and they had it. And I could have just made it myself, but all the time running around, I should have just made it myself. But anyways, I'm excited to purchase the ginormous one from
Me too. I buy it by the gallon. It's more cost effective. And then I just love date syrup. I just think it tastes so good and it's not sickly sweet like say agave or.
Right. Yeah. I have used agave before in this, but yeah, you don't use very much. Same with maple syrup. We use, if we don't have date syrup, we use pure maple syrup from Costco. But it is very sweet as well. So the date syrup I find works perfectly. So my recipe is super easy. That's in the book for happy peanut butter balls. And I call them happy because we went from SAD, the standard American diet, to happy, healthy and plant-powered, yay. And it's not as hard as it seems. I try and give tips for people to make this really easy. It's really not that hard to get your family on board. Mainly, it's helpful to let them eat things that they have always loved eating, but giving them healthy versions of that. So like your lasagna is one of our favorite lasagna recipes ever. That's what we love. Macaroni and cheese, you know, my kids were 6 and 8. They loved macaroni and cheese. So there's my healthy macaroni and not cheese recipe in the book as well. You can make burgers. You can make carrot dogs. I saw a guest of yours this morning made those. You can make all kinds of food that they will remember eating frequently. Desserts, that's another thing. Like these happy peanut butter balls are great to stick in lunches or stick them in the freezer like we do, pull them out when you need a snack. We take them on bike rides. They're just a fantastic energy source when you need them. So it's easier to eat this way if you don't deprive yourself of eating enough food. That's another thing. When I consult with people, oftentimes people are hungry, and I always say you shouldn't be hungry eating this way. You're probably going to have to learn to eat a lot more than you were used to eating because of calorie density. So that's a big trick to learn in the beginning as well, that I know you are big on and demonstrate very well.
Yeah, I mean I think because when people eat the Santa Monica diet, it's so high fat, they're having more calories, and so the higher caloric density makes them feel fuller, and they don't realize when plants at low caloric density, you got to eat more. I mean, unless you're trying to lose weight, but you got to eat more food. But I think that's a plus, you know?
Yeah. I'm the same way. I love to eat, and I don't do well restricting, and I don't like the idea of restricting. I can just get in some weird headspace fast. So yeah, I suggest eating. I mean, you can, I love Jeff Novick was generous, and his recipe is in my book as well. I suggest making a big batch of his longevity soup, which is so fantastic. You can use it as something you would eat before a meal, or you can use it as a meal. We make a huge batch of it, and you can eat that for 2 weeks. Stick some in the freezer, and you have some when you aren't ready, you know, you need something last minute. So yeah, there's some fantastic workarounds for making this really an easy way to eat. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but having desserts on hand, I would have to say is a big plus, especially for kids who are used to getting sweet stuff all the time. I mean, when we first did this, I couldn't believe, I knew they got snacks at school, but I had no idea the amount and how horrible the snacks they were getting at school were. You know, it's like Albertsons cookies in plastic trays, or, you know, they were good for a substitute, and so the teacher baked them brownies or whatever. So can be really helpful to have something that, you know, you have ready to give them that they can take. And this is a fun one to make with kids. It's almost like making Play-Doh, honestly, especially with this PB powder. And I am more of a artist, not a scientist in the kitchen. So I sometimes measure, but not often. So, I mean, I put measurements in there, but it's really just go to the liquid. Yeah. I mean, go to the consistency that you want. So I'm just adding a little water to this peanut butter powder. This is the PB2 powder with cocoa in it. And you just stir it up until it starts to look kind of like creamy peanut butter. Let's add a little bit more water here. Your sweetener will also act as a liquid here. So if it gets too runny, just add a little more peanut butter powder, or you'll be adding other things later. So like oats or something that would help thicken it up. So you just stir it up until it's runny.
I'm with you, Rachel. I don't like to measure either my recipes or the food that I have to eat. I just like to wing everything. And I think if people would just try it, they'd eventually get comfortable cooking that way. You know, then you don't need recipes.
I agree. And I'm just not good, you know, or if I'm out of one ingredient, you know, then I'm like, oh, well, that's not going to work. So again, you could measure this to be, you know, a 1/4 cup. This is a date syrup that I'm using. But I put about that much in.
But if people need recipes, there's over 2,000 in the bundle.
Exactly. And some people, my husband is somebody who follows recipes to a T. And I have to say, in like regular, I never bake pies. I can't, like, real baking stuff I'm not good at because I don't measure really well. So here you have your runny mixture. So after this, it's just add whatever kind of fillers you want. So I usually start with oat bran. So I add probably about a 1/4 cup, maybe a 1/3 or more, and mix that in. So, you know, with the oat bran and the oats, you can get all kinds of nutrient dense good stuff in here for kids who might not want to eat straight oats or might not want to eat wheat germ or flax meal. I've got wheat germ because I just heard Dr. Greger speak recently, and he was I mean, we already use wheat germ, but he was touting the benefits of wheat germ, especially for brain health. So some wheat germ in there as well. You can add chia seeds, hemp hearts. I mean, really, whatever you want in here. You could do raisins and stuff too. I put in about half a cup of oats to start, and we'll see how thick it gets, because we want it to kind of gel up a little. I put chia seeds in it before. That really helps with the gelling process. Add a little more oat bran.
Yeah, chia seeds are amazing. You know, I always buy the white ones just because then if I'm making something that's lighter, it doesn't discolor.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, I'm gonna add a little more.
So Marley's saying the courses in the bundle are valid for a year. No, they're valid forever. The thing is you have 1 year from the time you purchase to download. So I don't know why when people buy stuff, they don't, because they'll come back to us years later. But I'm going to be doing a live and you kind of talk you through how to do it. But you have 1 year to download everything. Then you own it. As long as you download it and keep it in a file or on a little flash drive, you own it for life. Marley is saying, I keep meaning to use the PB powder. I take it the plant-based doctors are okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I first heard about it actually from the Esselstyns. And so for people who have to maybe avoid nuts or trying to lose weight or have heart disease issues, you know, that they're trying to avoid fat, it can be a great addition. I just mentioned Dr. Greger because his kind of definition of processed foods is that nothing has been added to or taken away from it. So in that, you know, classical definition, I think it would be a quote unquote processed food because the fat has been taken out of it. I mean, you have to use a machine to have this happen, but it's not something we eat every day. And it's a great substitute if you can't do a lot of nuts. So I just added some vanilla too, but you add vanilla powder. Tell me when you get your vanilla powder.
Okay, I'm going to just say I'm a vanilla snob and I can't help it because it's just better. It's, you know, it really is. It's not a watered down. It's a true, if you love vanilla, just use vanilla powder. I got a bag a year ago for some friends from my birthday, and it's almost my birthday again, and I still have it. I mean, so, I mean, unless you're like a pastry chef, so you use a teaspoon here and there, and it is expensive, but compared to the vanilla bean, it's not. And I mean, I get nothing from the vanilla industry, just so
yeah. So is it just vanilla bean?
It's ground up vanilla beans. So like when people use vanilla beans in general, what they do is like, and they can be like, I've seen them for as much as $20 for 2 beans. And you can buy them in bulk. And so people take the bean and with a little knife, they're splitting it and then they're getting the seeds, which are like the best if you can afford that. That's what they use.
So good when you're doing it too.
But I think the powder is, I'm guessing they just grind up the whole bean. You can make vanilla water. I used to make this thing called, okay, so when I worked at True North, which she's telling me you're going to, I'm so excited for you. I'm about 2 hours away if you want to hook up. So they did not allow us to use vanilla extract because traditional vanilla extract had alcohol, which Dr. Goldhammer is not a fan of, and most extracts do, but there are alcohol-free extracts, which he still didn't allow because the first ingredient was glycerin, which was a form of sugar. So if you wanted to use vanilla, it had to be the bean, which is expensive. And so I learned from a cookbook called Cafe Gratitude's dessert cookbook that you could take like 2 or 3 vanilla beans and blend it with a certain amount of water and make vanilla water, which is great, but it doesn't last very long. And also you're then like, if you're doing like a recipe like this, you're adding more liquid. And so I don't know if I heard about it from Dr. Furman because he sells a wonderful vanilla bean powder and it's like $200, but it like lasts like a year. And, that's because a lot of times people think the reason we say vanilla bean powder is because if you say vanilla powder, you can go into a grocery store and get Cook's vanilla powder. And it's this white substance that's like dextrose. So again, you don't have to use it. I just feel like that most people, if they do, just like you don't have to get an Instant Pot or an air fryer, but I've never met anybody that eats this way long-term that is like, oh, I'm so unhappy I got a pressure cooker.
Right.
So, so I've turned a lot of people onto vanilla powder just because I really love the smell. I love the taste, and it's a little superior,
Yeah. Well, I like it. And I like the idea that it's not more liquid too. If you're trying to keep something, you don't want something more wet, right?
Yeah.
So here's your, it kind of looks like Play-Doh, right? I mean, this I added quite a bit of oats. If you don't want the full oats, you don't have to do that. Just use the oat bran or something else. And then, yeah, use whatever. I've got the dark chia seeds. You can roll them in there. I've got some cacao nibs. Oh my gosh, those are fantastic. Get your magnesium, get your crunch. And then, if you want, you can roll them in mini chocolate chips, dairy free, of course. You can roll them in cocoa powder, which makes them look like truffles. I mean, you can do whatever you want. That's really what I love about these is you can customize them to whatever you and your family, your kids or grandparents or party, whatever you're doing this for. You can make them however you want. So I just stuck a little cranberry in there. I use goji berries often. I'm going to wash my hands because they are sticky.
Goji berries are fun. Do you have the juice store Pressed Juicery by you?
We do not. No.
You don't have anything. You got to move. No, I'm kidding.
Juice. I mean, probably over in San Jose we do, but yeah, not Santa Cruz.
Do you have a Costco?
We do. Yes. We
Okay.
do.
All right. Well, then you can stay. I can live as long as I have a Costco and a Trader Joe's. I'm pretty much hooked up. But anyway, so it's this really cool place, and they had them in LA. And then when I moved to the desert, they didn't have them, but they have them again here in Roseville. And what it is, it's a juice store, which makes, delicious juice, which I generally don't buy. But they have this machine with 4 flavors, and it's like a vegan soft serve. And I get the one that's vanilla, and it's just basically almonds, dates. That's it. And a tiny bit of salt, but I don't care. And but at the little topping bar, they have strawberries and raspberries and blueberries, but they have goji berries. And they're so good on the soft serve because they freeze up and they're like really,
yes.
I think they're just super fun, goji berries.
I love them too. I put them in overnight oats all the time. My husband doesn't like them until they've softened up, but I'll add them at the end because I'm with you. I like them. They're kind of hard and chewy. And they have a really interesting taste to me. Dr. Greger said he really doesn't like them at all. I thought it was really funny. They're so good for you. Yeah, he doesn't like the taste of them, but I don't know if you just need to eat it.
I just love them. I love the size. I love the taste.
Yeah.
It's extremely fun.
Yeah, they're a fantastic addition. So, this is a simple, really simple recipe that you can make with kids or grandkids. You can make them yourself. You can make them, look however you want. And you're getting tons for people who are concerned about protein or fiber, minerals, vitamins. I mean, you pack a lot in here depending on what you put in it. So, it's kind of an art session, get creative and make whatever you want out of these guys.
Nice. Well, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Of course. Thank you so much. This bundle has been so much fun. It's been super fun meeting all the contributors, doing lots of lives and all of that with all these fantastic people who have offered so many wonderful things in this bundle.
I got to find out that link because they could I think there's a general link where they could see every single contributor. You could be watching bundles 24 hours a day. I got to see if you know where that is. But in general, when it's not bundle week, where do you hang out the most? YouTube, Instagram, Facebook?
Usually Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I just upload things where I like your show or I was on Esselstyn Family Foundation. So I have some links there to things I've done. But yeah, usually for Fork's Sake Book or for Fork's Sake Book at Instagram. There's 2 S's for Fork's Sake, or my website for forksakebook.com. You can find me there as well. And if you head over there, then you'll get my weekly newsletter, which I send out recipes and tidbits, happenings. I heard you say earlier this morning you might speak at the San Francisco Veg Fest. You should come speak at the Santa Cruz Veg Fest.
How far is Santa Cruz from Sacramento?
Not that far, maybe 3.5 hours, 4 hours.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah.
4 hours is a long time.
I know, but you could listen to some good books or something. Yeah, they're looking for some more speakers. I'm speaking. There's plenty of people speaking, but I know they had over 5,000 people there at the last one. So they've got over 100 vendors. It's going to be
amazing. Yeah,
April 6th.
That is so cool. Well, that is great. So guys, I just put the link in again in the chat. It's in the show notes. You can get the bundle from Rachael, get all the delicious recipes she showed, the Goodman peanut chews, her peanut butter balls, and her whole book. So it's a great value. It's so nice to see you again. I love the new hair.
So great to see you too. Thanks, Chef AJ.
Well, thank you, Rachel, and thanks to all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back in about a half hour for Dr. Nikki Davis, who has a regular slot at this time, but she wrote a kid-friendly book, and she's going to be talking all about how to get your kids to eat healthy.